Welcome back to Forgotten Sands HD. So it's time to continue our journey to the palace in finding the entrance to the city.
And it
Or at
looks like
least
we're
also
going to.
stopping Malik.
It looks like we're gonna have to sacrifice our brother.
Well, who knows? We have to see.
Well, I mean, from what the story is saying, he's doomed unless there's that magical third option.
Uh, keep in mind, Joe, like I said, there's also the lack of catharsis given by the timeline position of this.
Again,
The outcome at the end doesn't really matter at this point.
the more we go through the story, the more I really feel like this could have been more effective and better if this took place after Two Thrones. Like, seriously, this could have been the prince showing that he's learned about having to take responsibility, and that sometimes he can't always sometimes he can't always save his loved ones. Again, you know what? And again, there could have been so many reasons for him to show up. In fact, if anything, maybe out of grieving he wants to see his brother and just happens upon this. And yet he has to deal with this stuff again. Again, it just really is baffling that he never mentions this ever in the original trilogy. Like, there are some things that, yeah, okay, I can get characters not mentioning that you mention in, like, later material, even prequels are still, but his own brother supposedly possibly dying here, or him having to
Because he was
sacrifice his
controlled
own
by
brother.
an efreet from the era of King Solomon.
Heck, if anything, shouldn't this have given him some insight as to how to handle some of his later capers too?
But don't you see, Java, remember, this is also one of the reasons why he becomes super angsty in War Within. So...
Oh god, I'm just gonna say this right now. Warrior Within is one of those cases where I could care less about explaining how we got to that point, because it sucked, okay? Doesn't matter how much you try and build up to it, or make it seem like it was a smart decision. It sucked, just move on.
It's not even one case. I mean, yes, there is some hilarity in the edginess of the prince, but it's one. But the problem is that the game itself takes itself way too seriously, with barely any jokes at all, if any. I don't even remember if there are any particular jokes in War Within. I honestly don't think so.
From what I can understand, Warrior Within is one of those games made specifically for the time when it came out. Like, at first, it got praise, but soon enough, it eventually got scorned. Like,
no. I'm having it something like this, Jova. Honestly, a flawed game can still be entertaining if it has goodly written comedic factor to it. Case in point, also the first couple of, for example, the first game. The first game has the problem that it hasn't aged well thanks to its clunky mechanics and everything. But it is more memorable because of what they did with the character of the prince, his interaction with Farah, and everything. Things that got reprised eventually also in the Two Thrones.
yeah.
War Within has the ugly scene of taking itself too seriously and not even in a good way. Another comparison that they constantly make is the Resident Evil franchise. The reason, technically speaking, both Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 are both very bad games that don't really have a lot to do with the outside of tying up supposedly loose ends here and there.
I would slightly
I
disagree about Resident Evil 5, but I agree with you about Resident Evil 6.
But I would argue that 5 is an infinitely more enjoyable game because you can treat it as a cheap popcorn B movie, one of those movies made with a budget of Einstein, which thanks to its setting and what Chris has to do. Especially considering also there are some unintentional areas moment like Chris punching a boulder in a volcano. Come on, that is pure B material. Of course, it is a desecration of the franchise when you get down to it. But there is Resident Evil has always been about the cheese a lot of times. So there is some margin. Resident Evil 6 doesn't have that luxury because, for the sake of granting its continuity porn, in order to tie up its loose ends, because it had a gajillion subplot to tie things up to it between Ada, Leon, and Chris.
Heck, even flipping Sherry from Resident Evil 2 of all things comes back.
In order to tie things up like that, it sacrificed any entertainment value. Aside from some minor over-the-top action, there are no real jokes. Even Leon is much more subdued and doesn't really have his traditional one-liners.
And don't even get me started on how flipping melodramatic Chris's story is. Like, don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. I get Chris and his moping here and there, but holy cow, I mean, that game just does not want Chris to have any joy in his life whatsoever.
I guess that's why Resident Evil 7 had almost entirely new characters.
Well,
not only that, Dweebs, if you notice, Resident Evil 7 also has a lot of black humor, informal black humor, but still comedy, a lot of comedy to it, thanks to character variable.
Which is kind of what Resident Evil was at its core. That's why people can still like Resident Evil 5. Like, yeah, it may not have as much horror here and there, but it still has a lot of what Resident Evil, something that people loved and liked. And
the cheese. Again, it's a tribute to classic zombie movies like John Romero's, so it makes sense.
Resident Evil 6?
I gotta say, on the subject of Resident Evil 5, every time I haven't played it myself, but every time I think of it, I keep thinking of those, one of those bad X-Play top 10 lists, where Resident Evil 5 was on it. I think it was like bad worst sequels or something, I can't remember. But I think the only reason they gave was that, the friendly AI is a bit dodgy and keeps getting in the way of the camera.
Yeah, I mean...
That was literally the only reason they gave, I think.
Yeah, again, Resident Evil 5 isn't even really a bad game. It's just, a lot of people may not like it so much for the pumped-up action. I actually do like it for the finality to some marks it does bring.
It's compared to its predecessors that it does lose its theme, because compared to Resident Evil 4, mind you, which it's the one that is more similar to it, it has less cheesiness, technically speaking. Chris is much more serious, for example. There aren't that many one-liners from him. Most of the liners are from Wesker, and thank God for that.
Well, at least you guys give more reasons for why sequels are bad than that top 15 list I showed Tio recently.
Oh, was it a BuzzFeed one?
No, actually, no.
It might as well be, though, for how
literally
precise it is.
Listen, I swear, it's like sometimes he only gives like one reason for a game to be on like the worst 50 disappointing game sequels of all time. He only put Dino Crisis 3 on there just because of dinosaurs in space. He put Zelda 2 on there because of one spelling error. And guess what number 1 was, Jonah?
There's no logic to go off of, so it could literally be anything.
He basically said every single Sonic game after Adventure 2.
Oh, great! One of those guys. But yeah,
it was from years ago, but still.
Yeah, back when YouTube didn't have as many standards as it had with who got popular and whatnot. See, but yeah, Resident Evil 5 is a game that I'm glad still does get some respect here and there, because I'll admit, more often than not, I'm not going to say that it doesn't have problems, but I will agree with you that whenever people...
If I recall correctly, if I recall correctly, just showcase the room where you have to get in.
Sorry, bad guys down below. Resident Evil 5, I think, does get a bit unfair flack whenever people critique it. Well, not whenever people critique it. There are some people who critique it good. But yeah, the general consensus does tend to be a bit unfair to 5. Even though, really, the stuff that they're going after 5 for, that's something 6 did more. 6 is a melodramatic fest where the gameplay... Okay, here's the thing also. Because there are different gameplay styles, I'm not kidding, there are slight variations on the gameplay styles for each campaign.
And it's incredibly more action, more over the top, which normally wouldn't be bad. Like, it could be enjoyable potentially. Like I said, the scene where Chris punches a boulder is hilarious for the wrong reason, but it's still hilarious.
6 doesn't have that.
6 is all about that. Hell, you even have a character who doesn't really use his gun, if I recall correctly, and just uses CQC. Yeah, Jake.
If you want me to, Joe, I can show you that. It's after we're done with this part.
No thanks. I'd rather not lose brain cells.
My point before I go for when I went with the tangent of Resident Evil was because I do believe Warrior Within is of the same, meat. As that, yeah. It's a game that takes itself too seriously when it should be more cheesy, honestly.
And it didn't
should have been
age
run
well
with its edginess.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's the thing. It's like, well, with Warrior Within, Prince of Persia 2, I mean, you have a gameplay that people liked for, like, I think at most 1 year, but after that year, people immediately started hating this game, and that's why, you know, changes were made for Prince of Persia 3.
It was also a fact that, similar, for example, instead to Devil May Cry, Ubisoft didn't really know what to do with the franchise at that moment. Oh, new enemy type, the
Ooh.
Flying Sorcerer. Basically, these are specifically put for you to use your flying powers on, your homing attack.
Lovely. So, Dwibs, what's your experience with the Resident Evil franchise, since you seem to know a bit about it?
Only from what I've seen through YouTube videos. Remember, Jeff, I'm not so much a horror game fan.
Fair enough. I'd say if ever you want a game series to get you introduced to the horror genre and ease you in well enough, Resident Evil, I'd say, is nice your speed.
Well, it's nice for you to say, but I'd rather there are other Capcom series I'd rather play. You know.
Oh, no
Sure.
problem. Besides,
There we go,
between me and someone else, we'll find other people to handle the Resident Evil games.
Yeah, well, I've already done. Well, in terms of Capcoms, I've already done a Ball of Justice. What else would there be for me to do, Capcom-wise?
Well, you're doing Mega Man X7.
Yeah, the Mega Man
I'm
games,
doing X8 too.
Yeah, so there's something.
I can't let you have all the good Mega Man X games, Joe. But I want one.
Of course.
Besides, you're doing X6.
Honestly, I'll take X6 over X7.
Although X6 is still pretty bad. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. Both games are frustrating for different reasons. X6 because of its bullshit difficulty, and X7 because it tried to do 3D but it's failed at it. It couldn't even do 2D all that
I
well.
have to find Malik. I have to warn him about Ratash.
There you go. Basically,
I don't think he's gonna listen to you about that if
well,
Ratash is
the
controlling
priest
him.
is still naive face, Jova.
And I guess to be fair, though, it's not like he has much else to do while he's looking for the city of the Jinn.
Yeah.
These gardens are one of the wonders of Persia. A wilderness in the midst of a desert kingdom. They're even more beautiful than I remember.
Yeah, 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Too little water.
Sightseeing is nice, Prince, but now's not the time.
Remember, hold on.
Oh.
A sandstorm.
Well,
Probably
cried.
just a coincidence.
Yeah, just coincidence.
Right.
Just be glad they didn't use again Darude's song once more.
Just
Would have been
a
easy.
Just a coincidence of a sandstorm. Yeah, sure.
What I was saying. Oh yeah, basically, you also have to understand that the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, where the priests come from, were considered one of the 8 wonders of the world. So, they are described as being antique and magnificent in their composition. So, but there's only witnessing of that. Unfortunately, since they went lost to the sense of time, and there are little documents talking about them. There's not much that historians can pinpoint about them, unless you're the writers of River Thief, that they were hidden under the Sea of Paris for some reason. Don't ask.
Of course they were.
Oh, you mean, well, remember too, the guy who wrote and directed The Riven Thief was Shun Nakamura, who also directed Sonic 06.
That explains a lot.
When I hear Ribbon Thief is actually a good
don't mind.
story.
I really enjoy Riven Thief. It's not even a Layton clone because it relies
He
a
also
lot
created-
on Riven games. It's more like the spiritual successor of somebody amigo that Sega wanted.
Well, that was also created by Shun Nakamura.
Oh,
Yeah.
there he is.
Shun Nakamura's primary games that he created at Sega were Somebody Amigo and Riven Thief.
Fine.
Well, he's handled him most fine for the most part.
Malik!
Yeah, he's totally gonna listen to you. Oh well,
I've seen
after
that
him.
attack before. I hope he can hold
Yes,
out
you
against that
have.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I still really enjoy Riven Thief, but I'm not gonna lie, some of its plot points, especially near the end, are very ridiculous, honestly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's intentionally cheesy because even though it doesn't rely on puzzles almost at all, it has a structure still similar to Layton games, similar to Doctor of Tracky tied to have a piece of the Layton fame pie, but with Sega trying to do its own spin of things, but it didn't pay off as much as they
It didn't
wanted.
Maybe that's why they tried to sue Sega for having the touch controls in Inazuma 11. For as nonsensical as that is.
I think you mean level 5.
Yeah, you're right. Sega suing level 5 because apparently only Sega's allowed to do touch controls somehow.
Of course, don't you know?
Boing.
Although it's very situational, I kind of really like the homing attack. That
It definitely looks cool, and it looks like it can be versatile enough.
But compared to the traditional Sonic game, it's still really simple. You only have to use it once. Like it's not really chainable unless it's later, and even then, it's very scripted. It's not fast paced. So you're clearly not playing a Sonic. Think of it more like, I guess, Shadow in Sonic 06. Even though he doesn't lock in one place because he wants to focus on the combat. There we go.
Thanks for standing there, enemy. We needed you.
Yeah, that's the thing. The flying sorcerer enemies are mostly there just so they can be tackled by the Omega tank. Mind you, they do oppose resistance, so it's not with projectiles. So it's not like they're just standing there doing nothing. But still.
Nice job fixing it, villain.
There we go.
Oh, could somebody get the license plate of that truck that just hit me?
I'm not sure. Well, remember, according to the two pros, the prince is actually versatile in guiding a chariot, so maybe actually do some road rage like that. There we go. But yeah, like at this point, it's pretty much clear that Malik is not gonna collapse eventually. But about the influence of Ratash, the real question instead is: will he survive the entire experience or not? Like, will the prince find a way to revert the control or not? The experience with the past game shows that he potentially can, but who knows? Already, the idea of finding a sword that has to kill Ratash for good was an option that the Marid discarded until it was strictly necessary, like now. So times are dire.
Even still, it sounds like there may be a bit of extra bounty on that, which means someone's got to pay dearly in one shape or form for that sword.
Yeah. There we go.
Whee!
But yeah, what they said before about also the plot not having enough bite of this game, I think it's a shame because I honestly think that the gameplay was perfected, even though it was simplified also a bit. I think with enough tinkering, they would have managed to obtain the perfect game that they needed. Unfortunately, like I said, it's not the adrenaline shot that the franchise needed at this point in time. Like that's also why the reason why I'm still always open for Ubisoft to try again once more with the franchise itself.
Heck, it's not like the franchise was failing them either, because from what I hear, this game sold relatively well enough. I mean, better than the god-awful reboot.
The spreading on multiple consoles with different versions also helped.
Well, it was also notable that it sold better than that god-awful reboot.
Well, definitely. Keep in mind also, Joe, that the reboot, as we will see when we get to it, also had the problem of when it came out, the word spread around about its major problem, both in gameplay and in the story. So people basically quickly didn't want to buy it anymore. Again, it's a damn shame because everything else about the game is fantastic. The presentation basically, because it's a shell shade that isn't, to my opinion, hasn't aged a single bit over the years. Could have been done it's been done in 2008. Could have been done in 2013. It would have been exactly the same.
It's
And
a
the
pro-
score is just pure Lawrence the Arabia style Oriental music.
Sad
So
thing
the
is
fact
that
that
we
it's
don't-
tainted.
Yeah, you know, those cases always suck. When the game does have a very good art style and great music, but everything else about it, okay, the gameplay isn't the worst, but let's just say the gameplay suffers from Mega Man X7 syndrome, and that it makes it way, and I mean, way too overly simplified when it at its best, and at its worst, it's cheap.
Jover, if it were X7, then one of the controls just flat out be really, really stiff and has camera
I will
controls.
say
Not necessarily. X7
Yeah,
operates as you would expect.
also, Dreams,
It would have camera controls that would be dated in like 1998 and I know 2003.
also, Dweebs, I can tell you this: if you're coming to reboot fresh of the trilogy of Prince of Persia, you're gonna be disoriented because almost all the controls are remapped to different tools, to different buttons, and the Prince has different actions. As a reboot, as a reboot proper in terms of handling different its gameplay. But still, you'll be very confused if you jump in from one sub-series to the other.
Which isn't really a good thing to do if you also want to get, veteran fans of the original series
Honestly,
involved.
for this kind of case, I'm more willing to understand that for that, but I'll explain more once we get to the actual reboot itself.
Alright.
It's best to be seen to be understood.
My overall stance is that I would have seen the reasoning for it if it actually gave us a good game. Spoilers, I feel it does not. Because, okay, I get the mentality behind it. The problem is that the controls kind of sucked in that game as a result. Like, if they made something good out of it, of course we'd be more okay with it. But it didn't.
Are you about X7 still, Jabba?
No, I'm talking about the reboot of Prince of Persia.
2008 one.
Look,
Anyway, we have reached the aqueducts, which are in a terrible state. As you can see, they're leaking everywhere. Seriously, someone called the Mario Brothers to fix this shit.
I know. Right?
Don't you remember they lost their plumbing jobs?
No, they didn't.
Oh, and there's
When was
Malik.
that?
I think didn't Nintendo say that they aren't plumbers anymore?
No.
I don't remember that, honestly.
No,
Dreams.
no. Nintendo never said that.
Super Mario 3D World actually has them do plumbing. So,
Yeah, it clearly starts with them doing plumbing work. So
And
for
heck,
us to
Mario
change
even
it.
does plumbing work for New Donk City, too.
Alright.
Alright,
Anyway, see you for the next party if we manage to convince Malik to come back to the light side.
yep.
Alright,
See ya.
see ya.